So how long have you worked with the University of Tennessee?
I've been at UT just over 10 years. I guess technically I'm in my 11th year, started January 2010. So
Wow, okay.
January 2020 was 10 years. So
That's
in the
awesome.
11th year.
So what is your position at UT? Can you describe a little bit about your role?
Sure. So I direct the Office of Engineering Professional Practice. We've got 3 other full-time staff in our office, and we'll have 25 to 30 sort of student volunteers that work with our office as well. And so our office in the Tickle College of Engineering oversees the cooperative education and internship education program for the College of Engineering.
Okay.
We focus on co-op and internship. At the periphery, we'll help some companies and some students with some of the full-time job searches as well. But again, the focus is that co-op and internship piece.
That's awesome. So what is it that you love most about your job?
I really like the aspect of working with the students.
Mm-hmm.
That's a kind of a big piece and maybe kind of a stereotypical answer a little bit. The other thing that I really like too about the job is, again, my background's mechanical engineering, and then I also have the business background. This job actually kind of combines the two fairly nicely. Not that I'm doing any hardcore engineering, but I'm working, in a college of engineering, working with engineering students, and the kind of the business of what we're doing and interacting with employers, interacting with students. There's obviously kind of promotion and messaging part of, the marketing elements that deal with that. There's getting students together with employers. It all kind of comes together. It's a job that draws on kind of both parts of the background, and the fact that I was an engineer or worked in engineering for nearly 20 years or just over 20 years. It's kind of like being, an NBA coach or an NFL coach, having been a player in the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that experience, and then, then you're doing the coaching. So working with the students, being able to talk about what it's like to be in engineering from an engineering perspective, rather than just from, someone that's read about what engineers do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the way it all swirls together. So that part's cool. Then obviously working with the students and working with the companies and employers and relationships are really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure you're able to definitely better help students when you're teaching them something about you're passionate about,
Sure. Yeah.
So that's good. So can you explain a little bit more about your educational background and your previous work experiences and how that kind of led you to where you are now?
That's a great question. So I've got a bachelor's and a master's in mechanical engineering. My first job was with a large defense contractor, General Dynamics. Actually worked in Connecticut on the acoustic design of nuclear submarines. So I did that for about 3 years, and then moved back to Knoxville for a company that was in the same line of work around vibration analysis, machine condition monitoring, and that sort of thing. So my mechanical engineering background kind of migrated towards acoustics and vibration and that sort of thing. So that brought us back to Knoxville. I worked there for, I guess, nearly 17 years, maybe 16, 17 years, was in a variety of roles, and then transitioned into kind of that marketing, new product development role, which is still a very technical role, even though it kind of lived on the marketing side. It was a very technical marketing, new product development role. And then along the way, began to really think about, what I might want to do, further into the future. The thought was, in the world of vibration analysis, there are kind of a handful of companies that do that, apart from going to work for an end user and do that, going to work for a Cargill or an Alcoa Aluminum or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought, man, I might need an MBA to be a little more mobile, maybe within the Knoxville economy, the local economy. And so kind of decided to pursue that. And that felt like that was, ended up being fruitful. And again, with the marketing and then getting over to UT, Again, I think having the engineering and the business, helped me with from a hiring standpoint, that I think that was maybe attractive.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and it's helpful, right? It's helpful having both those backgrounds. So that's a little bit of the background: engineering, new product development, and business.
That's super interesting. That's a good mix too. So yeah. So looking back at your college self, knowing what you know now, is there any advice that you'd give about college or your early career?
The interesting thing, I remember vividly walking on campus sometime junior, senior year. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember thinking, one day it would be awesome to work at a university. I remember having that thought. The career progression, I didn't plan it out in such a way to end up at the university. A lot of things kind of opened up, and then I took that path. I remember when I was getting ready to graduate, one of my from undergrad, one of my professors that was teaching several classes that I was in, he kind of, in one class, I forget which one it was, it might have been kind of like a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning class. Maybe it was an acoustics class. I don't remember what it was exactly, but he kind of said, "Hey, do y'all want to talk about," it was just a couple of us in the class. He said, "For the next couple of months or weeks, we could talk about, pumps, or we could talk about acoustics." And we all decided we want to talk about acoustics. So that was just kind of a inflection point that I didn't realize that conversation would lead to the fact that then later he posted opportunity for some graduate research assistants. And for whatever reason, I guess I was maybe struggling finding a job. I don't remember. Decided to go to graduate school and was able to, get one of those research assistant positions. So just things kind of fell into place. And then from there, the work that we did kind of led its way to electric boat. Some of the things we were doing with General Dynamics Electric Boat, one of the things we were doing there, led itself back to the position back in Knoxville. And then it just kind of progressed. Several things that I did in college, not really thinking about it at the time, in that I did manage kind of a hybrid co-op internship, really kind of on my own, because when I was at school, I was at Tennessee Tech, and their co-op program was really a 2-year program. You went to school for a year, co-op for a year, school for a year, co-op for a year, and then school for a year. So it really was a solid 5-year program, and I had some limitations. But anyway, I did get into kind of a hybrid internship program that really looks like our co-op program at UT today. And then when I interviewed for my position at UT, the fact that I had done that in college became very, very important, because in leading a co-op program, and if I hadn't done any kind of co-op or internship in college, I would have really, I think, been a weak candidate and a weak, I don't know, director person, member of the office, having not had that experience. So again, that's just something that just kind of happened. I had no knowledge that this is what I would do in the future. So really the thought is, take advantage of opportunities, try to make things happen, be looking for new opportunities. There's certainly a school of thought that if you have a specific plan in mind to try to get there, and there are books. I've got it on my bookshelf. Another book that you might be interested in from a marketing standpoint. You know who Jim Nantz is, the broadcaster, sports broadcaster? Okay, well, he wrote a book, says "Always by My Side." I'm looking at it here on my bookshelf.
Okay.
And in his book, he kind of talks about, from an early standpoint, he knew he wanted to be like the lead announcer on CBS College Game Day kind of thing, right? And so then he manipulated or managed his entire college and early career to put himself in position to get to that spot.
Yeah.
And he eventually got to that spot and beyond. So some people go that route.
What want to do. Yep.
Most people, I think, just kind of float and things happen, and they just kind of take advantage of opportunities. So,
yeah, I think it's super interesting. You never know where you're going to end up for some people, and you never know where one experience could lead you to the other. I always say, the most valuable thing for me that I've been able to do is experience as much as I can and then evaluate, because every experience that I'm going to have is going to be valuable in some way long term. Whether I hate it or I love it, it's going to teach me something.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's one of the advantages of the cooperative education and internship piece for engineering students is, they're learning academically about engineering, and then they go out into the real world and they see engineering, and then they can get a feel for what do they really want to do. Do they want to
yeah,
do more design oriented work? Do they want to do more manufacturing support engineering type work? Do they like being outside? Do they like being inside? Do they want to be on a construction site? Just what do they want to do?
yeah.
And so when they get ready to take their first full-time job, they've got a basis of understanding of what engineering looks like at different companies and things like that. So
Without the real
yeah,
world experience during college, it's very hard to go out into the real world knowing exactly what you want to do when you really haven't had that experience to fully understand.
right, right,
Um, Also, I feel like, with your professor, and I've had very many professors in my life that have led me to different experiences. It's sometimes the people that that can lead you to good
right,
opportunities.
right.
So, how have you been successful in creating your professional network?
I think the key is just reaching out to people,
Mhm.
and LinkedIn has been kind of cool because you can reach out to a variety of people there, and you kind of have some type of connection. Um, so I think it's just a matter of persistence and meeting people. The term networking is always a little, sometimes it's off-putting to people because it feels like you're networking to do something. And if you're in a job search, it does take on a little more, I'm networking to gain something. But I think if you can network and meet people when you're not trying to gain anything, that's when it's really helpful.
Yeah, networking to build a relationship rather than take something from someone or just gain
Right,
something. Yeah.
right.
So, what does this academic year look like for the University of Tennessee? Are you guys mostly online, a little bit in person, and how does this kind of affect your role?
It's the university will have students on campus.
Okay.
Not all students will be on campus. The classes are really sort of a hybrid mix. There'll be a mix of in-person instruction, some remote instruction. And some classes will be completely online. Um, Students are, like I said, coming to campus. Our program, our office, really, the college, the university has guided people or encouraged events to be as virtual as possible. So for us, everything, all of our events that we're doing with students will all be virtual. Some events will take place in the Zoom type platform or
Mhm.
Microsoft Teams. And then we'll also be leveraging some of the newer technology coming into our Grad Leaders platform for some of our events as well, particularly our Engineering Expo and the interview days being virtual.
Yeah.
So it's going to look very different. Our staff, we've been working remotely since March.
Okay.
And I thought about this just yesterday. It's one thing, because I went into the office yesterday. It's one thing to kind of wind the semester down and kind of move through the summer remotely. It's another thing entirely to try to start a semester, the energy of a new year, and still kind of be remote. It feels like we all should have been on campus
Yeah.
and everything should be completely back to normal as we're moving through the last part of the summer, but yet we're still in this kind of remote
Yeah.
mode. So it'll be all different. Um, the thought is, there are some new things that we're learning with technology, and the question is how much of the new technologies and the new ways of doing things will persist as we move forward when it's becomes more accommodating for things to be back to in person again.
Mhm. Yeah.
One of the things we observed is over the summer we had a few Zoom sessions with students, and we were able to have guest speakers from Houston, Texas, participate. They didn't have to travel; they just got on the Zoom and spoke to the students.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things are likely to persist somewhat. I know one of the things the university did with the student move-in into the dorms is they actually had them schedule appointments so that way everybody's not on campus at the same time.
Yeah.
And yesterday I heard they said that's something that will probably persist into the future, even when, COVID and all these things aren't really a risk. I think they felt like it was a lot smoother, a lot easier
sure.
to schedule the arrival. So they'll probably continue to schedule and have students move in by appointment even into the future. So there's things, like I said, that we're learning that, we'll try to incorporate some of those things moving forward.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different experience, but some of the things, like you're saying, you gotta find some value in it, and hopefully some of these things that we're learning and some of these skills that we're gaining, we're going to be able to take long term, and that's what we should be doing. So we'll see. But switching over to
Sure,
your
absolutely.
relationship with grad leaders, have there been any industry challenges that you've been able to solve by using grad leaders?
Well, for us, the key piece is the co-op and internship module that's part of Grad Leaders. We had the predecessor software to Grad Leaders, CSO Research, and then before our company, or excuse me, before that, we used the predecessor to CSO, which was First Place. So our office has been, part of that platform for, I don't know, 20 years, 20, 25 years. I don't know exactly how far back. And we had CSO when I started and had that before I arrived. So it's clearly nearly 20 years we've been involved. The switch to Grad Leaders, we migrated last year. We had looked at migrating a year before that or so. And so we migrated, had great support from the Grad Leaders team moving forward. The industry problems really just, being able to reach out to employers and encourage them, having a platform that we can control messaging to employers, messaging to students within the platform rather than relying on external communications from our communications office or the dean's office has always been helpful.
Yeah.
And really just trying to get students together with employers for the co-op and internship. So that's the problem it helps us solve.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. It kind of allows you to be proactive in your communication efforts. So that's good.
Right. And it tracks things well. We've had Grad Leaders now for right at a year and still feel like I'm just scratching the surface, particularly on some of the modules and the details. So that's kind of a goal to do a lot more with the software, moving forward. We've got a lot of new technologies coming at us. The new virtual platform for the career fair within Grad Leaders is going to be super helpful. That's what we were hitching our wagon to this summer, without the functionality being present. So I think we're about to see the release of that. So that's been fairly satisfying, knowing we chose well. So, but again, there's a learning curve. Yeah. We've got to train students. We've got to train employers, all within the next few weeks. So it's also looking a little daunting. Mm-hmm. We migrated last summer, went through the fall expo that we have. It's our kind of career event, our engineering expo. And there was huge, I was in constant contact with Grad Leaders. We were making changes, tweaking, doing things. Our spring expo was super smooth. And so I was really looking forward to the fall being just another super smooth, bigger and better. And yet everything changed. Mm-hmm. And so now it's a big, huge learning curve again. But the Grad Leaders team has been very receptive and responsive. So that part's very, very satisfying.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll have their help still with going through this big change, and it'll be worth it in the end. So.
Right.
So can you explain like the typical co-op internship process at the University of Tennessee and how it's changed since using Grad Leaders, or how Grad Leaders kind of helps this process?
Right. Well, our students go through the process of acquiring their co-op or internship role. So the Grad Leaders system, that's where students kind of match up their profile information, resumes. We're able to pull resumes, groups of resumes together, packets, send to employers. We have the Engineering Expo, which is the recruiting event, takes place within the Grad Leaders platform electronically. And of course, historically, then that's an in-person event. And that's where students meet. They'll interview. We do all the interviews in Grad Leaders and the interview schedules. And so then students, it helps facilitate all of that. Students report their work assignments. All that's tracked in Grad Leaders. They go on their work assignment. They do a work report. We get a supervisor's evaluation. That's all handled within Grad Leaders. So Grad Leaders handles all, not just the administrative pieces, but the recruiting pieces. We can, put the documents, their offer letters, the resumes are uploaded. So it really tracks everything related to their co-op and internship experience. And, it facilitates everything. It's the engine around which our program operates.
Yeah. It's nice that it's a one-stop shop and keeps everything organized.
Right. Exactly. And the other thing you will read in the books, Al Reese and Jack Trout, is that the specialist always wins over the generalist.
Okay.
Right. So when a company can be super focused, laser focused on what they're doing, they have a chance to be super successful. So our office being focused on engineering, co-op, internship, and staying focused on that is part of what helps us be successful. And the fact that the Grad Leaders software, much like the CSO interface software, is really centered around that student employer experience, right? It's not also trying to be complete, customer relationship management software. It's not also trying to be, sales software. It's not also trying to be retail software. It's not also trying to be, it's not trying to be Amazon, or eBay. It's exactly what it is. And that helps, Grad Leaders, and it helps us to be very focused on what we do. So that's a big help.
Good.
We're not trying to repurpose. And one of the reasons that we wanted very much to somehow use a Grad Leaders module for our career fair and our engineering expo is we didn't want to go out and use some third party kind of career fair software or, meeting software to try to make it fit what we needed. So again, having everything together, supporting the one mission and not having students. So if another school is using kind of third-party career fair software, well, now students and employers have to register in that also.
Yeah.
They got to upload resumes. They got to register. They've got their other career fair platform that they're using. So it's multiple things they've got to do, where Grad Leaders has allowed us to focus and have the one space for both employers and students to engage.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So what would you say is the main difference between Grad Leaders and other software companies?
I think it's the configurability to meet the needs of the individual company or individual university user. So I know, my Grad Leaders experience can look a little bit different from, Northwestern's Grad Leaders experience or, another school's experience. It's using the same platform, but it's very customizable. I think that's been really helpful. The fact that it really enables the co-op and internship piece, I believe it's the only platform that really enables that, and that's a really big, important piece for us. It just, again, it helps us meet our needs. When we migrated, we were able to retain and migrate our older historical data into Grad Leaders and other platforms. Had we moved to another platform, then just the old data just completely goes away, nothing migrated. So that was a consideration. The other consideration, again, with Grad Leaders and its continuation from CSO, and also consider the fact that it started with the MBA focus, that it had been in this space for a while. It was an existing company that had been around for some length of time, whereas some of the other kind of competitive solutions were new and maybe not financially stable yet. So the question was, what if they never really get financially stable? Would those solutions go away? So it was really kind of a longevity. Looking into the future, we wanted to make sure we were connected with a company that had an established history, the idea that some amount of past performance should indicate future performance,
Yeah, right.
unlike what they say about the stock market, right? Past performance does not guarantee future results. There's certainly that hope that past performance of a company should provide some insight into what the future may hold. And if you go with a company that has no past performance, then you really don't know what the future holds. It's really a question.
Yeah. So would you recommend grad leaders to other universities?
We've been very happy with our grad leaders experience. It's very responsive. I think it's a really good platform, and certainly I think other schools should consider the Grad Leaders platform. I think it enables, at least for us, it enables a better relationship with our individual employers. Some of the platforms I think might give students, I mean, they could give students more access to more jobs, but
Yeah.
those companies are not specifically recruiting from those schools. And so for our perspective, when companies are interacting with us, for the most part, they're specifically recruiting from the University of Tennessee. So it enables us to really kind of maintain that relationship and be aware of who's recruiting, what they need. And when students are interacting with those companies, they're generally just competing with other UT students for those positions that are posted, not competing with students all over the country for those positions. So in that respect, it Grad Leaders enables a more, I don't know, specific engagement with the university, with our students. And otherwise, students might as well just be on, monster.com or
Yeah.
something looking for jobs, right?
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
competing with everybody else. So
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you guys have had a good experience. Well, that's pretty much all the questions I have for you. Was there anything else you wanted to add about grad leaders or the University of Tennessee or anything?
not that I can really think of. Like I said, we've got a big learning curve moving forward as we start using some of the new virtual kind of career fair pieces. I talked with Matt Hall yesterday and got on the beta site. So reviewed it with my staff this morning. We already had a couple of questions and a couple of features like, oh, it'd be great if we could do this, we could do that. So again, just providing that feedback. Some of the things will be easy to tweak and add, and some things will, that'd take a developer a week to do that. So, we realize that's kind of what we're in, but we ran into a lot of that last summer and fall as we moved into our expo. There were lots of things we needed. There are a couple of things that have kind of hung out that we've been talking about and needing for a year, and we still can't quite get those to bubble up to the top of the development list. And we're but again, the reaction to COVID and the virtual piece has superseded some of those things. So I've told Matt we're certainly happy to put some of our requests on the back burner to make sure the virtual pieces are put in place, because that's become a higher priority for us too. So anyway, there are a few things we'd like to see changed in the software, and we'll just kind of keep persisting. The other thing is, I was certainly pleased that I was, invited to provide, some additional input into the technology leadership and see some early concepts that they were looking at. So happy to help, happy to be a resource to grad leaders moving forward. Had a chance to speak to a few other schools that were looking at grad leaders, so I'm certainly happy to be a resource.